Hi guys, Andrew Davidson here, and welcome back to another As Per My Ability video. If you like what we do here at As Per My Ability, if you like our content, if you like our videos, if you like board games in general, please comment, like, subscribe, hit the little bell so you get notifications when we post new videos. We always appreciate the help that you guys give us and the recognition that you give us, so thank you. Today's video is going to be quite different because I'm not going to be talking and showing off a game per se, but this is what I'd like to consider an Andrew kind of vlogging video where I'm just going to be talking about a particular subject in a particular game that's been on my mind recently. So today's video is going to center around kind of cultural awareness and things like that within board games, and we're going to be kind of keeping it localized to a game by Academy Games called Freedom: The Underground Railroad. So before I start off by getting into any rambling or anything in this video, I want to at least start off by kind of framing the video so that you guys know what's going to happen over the next 5 to 10 minutes or so. I'm going to be kind of rambling about games in general, specifically related to Freedom: The Underground Railroad. I'm going to be using kind of what they call the Socratic method or the dialectic method, which is I'm going to be asking a lot of questions, and they're kind of rhetorical. There's really no answer. I'm not going to be answering them in this video or any future video. And so let's start talking about the game first. So Freedom: The Underground Railroad, I'll hold up one more time, is a cooperative game in which all of the players at the table are taking on characters that are operating within the Underground Railroad. Now, for those of you that don't know what that means, in the 1800s, all the way through the Civil War, there was an underground railroad. It wasn't a literal railroad. It was a way for blacks in the South that were slaves to get involved in getting north and escaping to Canada and getting their freedom. Well, the government saw these people as property, okay? I'm not trying to be politically correct or incorrect. I'm just saying they sent out a particular act. They signed an act that made it popular for there to be slave catchers. And that is what you are doing in the game. You are not acting as the slave catchers. You are part of the Underground Railroad. They usually moved at night, and they moved among certain spots where they would stay at certain houses that were safe houses. So in other words, the family that lived there were sympathetic to the cause of these blacks, Africans that were trying to escape their from being slaves and making it all the way from the South, all the way up into the North and into Canada. So how the game works is, depending on how many players you have, you need to get X amount of slaves from the south of the board all the way up to the top. And hopefully I'll kind of post a picture of the board so you have some semblance of like kind of what it looks like. If you can do that, like let's say it's 10, depending on the player count, if you can get 10 freed slaves, you win the game. But there are constantly new slaves coming in off the boat. If you run out of spots, then you'll lose the game. If too many of the slave catchers catch the slaves, not your slaves, but the slaves that you're trying to escort, then you could possibly lose the game if too many of them get kind of captured, because then they get returned to the plantation. And when all the plantations are like filled up and you have to place cubes and there's no spot to place a cube, then you've like lost the game. So that's kind of the brief as far as how this game actually works. Freedom: The Underground Railroad by Academy Games. Now let's talk about kind of the non-gamer stuff about it that I've been thinking. Now, if I were alive during the Underground Railroad times, I think it would be pretty badass to be a part of the Underground Railroad. It would also be very, very scary as it was, you were doing things that were, like I said, against the law. You were basically stealing somebody's property. I know in today's very culturally sensitive world, just me uttering those words makes me feel kind of awkward. The fact that African Americans during this time period, you know, until the end of the Civil War and Abraham Lincoln, like the 13th Amendment, freeing the slaves, they were property. They were part of the economic system that was growing in the South, you know, cotton, plantations, things like that. And so the Underground Railroad was really great to be able to sneak some people out. Harriet Tubman, who is in the game, she's a female person of history, person of note. She escorted, I think, somewhere around 70-some people during the Underground, when the Underground Railroad was operating. During her tenure at the Underground Railroad, she freed 70 people, which is a pretty cool endeavor, considering, I mean, going up like north and south and just escorting people back and forth. This isn't like where you can hop on a subway or catch an Uber or something. I mean, they moved by night, they moved on foot for the most part. It was very, very like scary. And so if I lived in that time period, I think I would be sympathetic to the cause, and I would act as maybe one of the safe houses that they could stop at, where I would have a floor that kind of comes up and we could hide, you know, the individuals under the floor and stuff, and help them kind of as a stop on the way to their freedom. That is great. So freedom, the Underground Railroad. Now, having said that, let's get into the ideas that I've had as far as, I think we can all agree, I think, that this is a good game. I'm not talking about the mechanics, because I haven't even told you about how the game works. But I think this is a good theme. Somebody sat down and said, freedom, the end. How about a game where you're working together to try to free black individuals, slaves, from their slave owners during the 1800s? I think for the most part, you can get a good smattering of people seated at a table, and they would nod their heads and go, yeah, that seems like a positive game to put out. On the other hand, there has been some backlash in the gaming community, especially when this game came out. This game is a little bit older, but I did read some comments online about that were older comments that kind of sparked my thing about, well, do game developers have a responsibility to make, you know, polite, politically correct games? Now, in my opinion, I think that Freedom, the Underground Railroad is a politically correct, I mean, it's for a good cause, right? It's about doing things. Now, if they would have said, let's make this game and let's make all the players play the slave catchers, that could be problematic. Not could be, that probably is problematic, because as much as I would say, okay, which slave catcher do I get to be? And then I'd pick a character and I'd probably play the game and see how the game works. On the overall narrative of the game, I don't think people would really enjoy that. I don't think that would be a good theme that people could get behind. We're catching slaves, we're killing them, or returning them to their plantation. They're just trying to get their freedom, you know? And so I think the way that they framed the mechanisms in this game as far as working for the Underground Railroad works out perfectly. But there is some sensitivity here, because the slaves that are represented in the game, they're represented by cubes, okay? But they're represented as white cubes. Now, I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing. Like I said at the beginning of this video, I'm gonna throw out some questions and I have no clue. I don't know the answer. When I sat down and played Freedom, the Underground Railroad for the very, 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 very first time, it was with my buddy Brad. And when he explained the game to me and I looked at the cubes and I saw that the cubes are white, not black. Why aren't the cubes black? these cubes represent slaves. So, you know, the slaves were African slaves, so they were black. So why aren't the cubes black? Why are the cubes white? Now, you could see this in two different ways. You could see this obviously as the game developers, you know, saying like, we don't want to go that thematic. We don't want to be that immersive with our game by making the cubes black. But my question is, what's the harm? Who would be offended? African Americans that would come across this game, they would be offended because the cubes are black, because they represent black individuals, slaves that you are moving through the board trying to get to their freedom. Would black individuals, African Americans, would they play this game and go, I'm upset, why aren't they black? Or would they go the opposite way and they say, I'm glad they didn't make the cubes black. That would be a bit much for me. And I don't have the answer. I've thought about it for the past, I guess I've been lying. It's been a couple of weeks now since I've first played this game and got a copy of it of my own to talk about. But is this a good thing, a bad thing? And where does responsibility lie with board gamers? Or I'm sorry, board game designers, I should say. Why did they choose to not make the cubes black? Why are they white? Why are the cubes white? I'm pretty sure you could, you know, itemize for costing and stuff, but I don't think producing black cubes as opposed to white cubes would make any difference in the price point, because you still get just the same amount of cubes. Maybe the coloring on the cubes ups the price of the game by who knows what, a couple of bucks, maybe $5, I don't even know. But why not? And the question that I kind of want to go out on this video is this a good thing? Is this a bad thing? Is this something that people should be upset over? If an African American sits down and plays this game and they see the cubes as black, like black cubes, talking about the color, would they be offended? And then another question, if an African American sat down and played this game and saw that the cubes that represented slaves in the South were not black, that they're white, would they be offended? Or would they support it? In both scenarios, would it be a positive thing, a negative thing? For me, I was very taken back, and I thought that it, in an overall sense, now I'm not talking about as per my ability, and I'm not talking about the condition of my own heart, I'm talking about games, and I know games. I know a lot about games. And so when it comes to immersion and theme, why would you break it? Why would you break your immersion and your theme by putting in components that just don't make any sense whatsoever? Oh, what are these cubes over here? We got a bunch of them. What do I do with those? Oh, those are the slave cubes. These white slave cubes. And so why are you breaking my immersion? Like, why does this game all of a sudden go from like hella cool to like, this doesn't make any sense? I don't understand why the cubes are white. And I said to a couple of people, Brad being one of them and a few others, I'm going to paint my cubes black. I have a copy. I have it right here. This is my copy. And I'm going to paint my cubes black. Is that a bad thing? Is that a good thing? Is it a bad thing because I want the African American slaves, the black slaves, to be represented on the board by black cubes? Is that a bad thing? Am I a bad person because I want my game to kind of look thematic? Or is it a good thing that I want my game to look thematic? That I want the cubes to be black? Is there so much sensitivity in this world? And the answer is probably yes. But is it so much sensitivity that someone is going to probably say the cubes cannot be black? I mean, come on, guys. But you're doing a Freedom of the Underground Railroad, and the cubes represent slaves. Who would be offended if they were black? I don't understand. I don't know. I'm sure somebody will comment and let me know how they feel. How would you feel? How do you feel? You've got a very thematic game. You've got white cubes that are representing African-American slaves, black people. What do you think? What are your thoughts? Comment below, let me know. And other than that, I'm going to wrap this video up by saying that Freedom, the Underground Railroad, is a cooperative game, and it is a very good one. So I recommend that you do check this game out and get your white cubes and see what you think of on your own. But in regards to the game, I do like the game. I played it with Brad, and I picked up my own copy. So I will end on that and just kind of let you guys think. Comment below, let me know. Is this a good thing or is this a bad thing? As always, my name is Andrew Davidson for As Per My Ability. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you for everything that you do. Thank you for commenting. That's all I have to say. I will catch you guys all and see every single one of you at the next video.